Well, today, Damian Lillard finally got traded. Adrian Wojnarowski announced today on X that Damian Lillard had been traded to the Milwaukee Bucks in a 3-team deal that also included the Phoenix Suns. And I think a lot of people had really grown tired of the constant Dame updates throughout the entire summer and are very relieved to see that he has finally been traded. Dame had originally requested to be traded to the Miami Heat, but that's not what's going to be happening. He's going to be headed to the Milwaukee Bucks, where he will team up with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton. And here are the full details of the trade as per Woj. And I think this is pretty funny timing, actually. It kind of makes sense because it's before NBA training camp and preseason and all that stuff happens, but it's kind of just a random Wednesday in the middle of the NFL season. Everyone's kind of focused on football. And then all of a sudden, the Dame news just drops and everyone starts thinking about basketball for a second. So I first want to start by talking about the Damian Lillard part of this trade, and then I'll get to the other parts of it. So even though Dame wanted to go to Miami, I think this is actually a better spot for him in terms of winning basketball games and his chance of getting a ring. He's going to be playing with Giannis Antetokounmpo, a top 3 player in the league and potential MVP candidate pretty much every season. It's also a team that has championship pedigree. They won a championship a couple of years ago, whereas in Miami, yes, they've made it to the finals a couple of times, but they haven't won it yet, and they lost a lot of their depth this year to free agency. Gabe Vincent and Max Strus are both gone, and Kyle Lowry is a year older, so I don't know. It's hard to count out the Heat when they just continue to prove everyone wrong every single season, no matter what you say about them, but I really don't see them being the best spot for Dame. I think Milwaukee is a great spot for him. And as far as the rumors that have been floating around about him refusing to report to training camp or to play for a team if he didn't go to Miami, the reason why Dame requested a trade in the first place is because he feels like Portland is not going to give him the best chance of winning a championship. But Milwaukee does. And so I think he is more than happy to go and play with Giannis in Milwaukee, and he even posted on X about it today, saying that he's excited for the next chapter and that he's going to share more in the future about the whole process. So overall, I think this is a big win for Damian Lillard, and I also think it's a big win for the Portland Trail Blazers. They waited things out. They didn't just bow down to his wishes and trade him to Miami right away. They waited for a good deal, and now they got DeAndre Ayton, they got Drew Holiday, and they got some draft capital that is actually a pretty decent return for Damian Lillard. And reports are out there that they will probably look to move Drew Holiday, and Holiday is a player that still has a lot of value. He is a proven playoff performer. He has excellent defense, one of the best defensive players in the league, and so there's definitely going to be a spot for him. And I think that the Blazers can flip him for even more value, and it's just going to improve the return they got on the trade. As far as DeAndre Ayton, it clearly wasn't working in Phoenix, and after Phoenix traded for Bradley Beal, they kind of eliminated all of their depth, which was something they already didn't have. And now trading DeAndre Ayton to the Trailblazers is good for both teams, I think. Ayton gets a fresh start in Portland, and he can try and restart and revitalize his career with a bunch of other young guys and just get things going again for him. And then the Suns, they get Nurkic back, which is probably a downgrade from Ayton, but he's a little cheaper, and he also has less years on his deal. And so Nurkic, as well as the other players they got in the deal, such as Keon Johnson and Nasir Little, while they might not necessarily be huge, big names that are going to make a big difference, it gives them more depth, and it also gives the Suns a little bit more flexibility. And it alleviates some of the concerns that I had earlier in the offseason when they traded for Bradley Beal, where it's like, how are they even going to be competitive when they're so top heavy and they basically have all of their money in 4 players? Well, this is going to help alleviate that a little bit. I still think they're going to be hit pretty hard by the second apron that is about to kick in, but at least for this season, I think they have improved their roster, and I'm pretty impressed with what they've been able to do. And then going back to the Trailblazers a little bit, I talked about how it'll be good for Ayton to have a fresh start and to play with a fun young team. I think this is also a good move for Scoot and Anthony Simons and players like that. Yes, obviously it would be great to play along Damian Lillard and to have him as a mentor, but it also kind of removes any potential for awkwardness about whose team it is when clearly Scoot is an alpha and has the potential to be an all-NBA type player, and trading Dame away, letting Dame have his shot to win a ring in Milwaukee, and then turning the team over to Scoot, I think is just a great scenario for both players. As far as how I think this is going to impact the playoff standings, I think that Boston is still the favorite in the East. It typically takes a while for teams to get used to each other when they bring in a big star like this. It's pretty rare that it just instantly clicks right away. Like even the big 3 in Miami back in 2011, 2012, they lost in the finals the first time that they were together. And it took a year for them to kind of get things going, and then they won a couple of rings. So I think that the trade definitely improves Milwaukee's chances of winning a ring this year. Bill Simmons talked on his podcast a while back about how some of these great teams in the past that have been able to make a move that can extend their championship window are able to stay relevant and contend for a lot longer. And I think this is the kind of move that does this. I think Milwaukee is going to be set for the next few years. And with Giannis talking about, I don't know if I'm going to stay in Milwaukee. I want to go to where it gives me the best chance of winning a ring. Well, going and getting Damian Lillard is a great way to convince him to stay in Milwaukee. So I still think Boston is the favorite in the East, but I'd put Milwaukee at second behind them, and I would not be surprised to see either team go to the finals. But if I was to pick a favorite, then I would say Boston. Another interesting storyline that I thought of as I was looking at everything is now Damian Lillard is going to the East, and that's going to be interesting because Dame has played in the West for his entire career. He has the one conference finals appearance, and he's had some pretty awesome playoff moments, but not a ton of playoff success. And now going to the Bucks and playing for this team that has championship aspirations, it's going to be the best team he's ever played on. It's also the best teammate that Giannis has ever had. So I think it's a great situation for him as far as increasing his playoff legacy, because while they may not win the championship right away, he's got a pretty good chance of going to the Eastern Conference Finals in his first year there. And he's only been to the conference finals once in his career. So Damian Lillard in the East, I think, is going to be interesting to watch, both for playoff success as well as for his chances at making the All-Star team, All-NBA, stuff like that. I just think it's a great spot for Dame. And then last thing here, I don't know if you remember a few years ago when there was kind of the talk about Giannis before he ended up winning the first ring, about how he is Shaq, not Kobe. Like he needs a second star to really help get the best out of him. And while I don't necessarily totally agree with that, I think Giannis is a one on a team. and he's proved that he could be the best player on a championship team. But I think having a player like Dame, especially in the playoffs, is going to take a lot of pressure off him because he doesn't always have to be the one that takes the last shot at the end of games. You have two options. You could pass it to Giannis, who can try and power his way to the basket, or you can give it to Lillard, who has a proven record of being a clutch player in the playoffs. Multiple buzzer beaters, series winning shots in big moments. So I think this is great for Giannis because it's going to take a lot of pressure off him in those moments. And oh, by the way, they still have Chris Middleton, who is also a tremendous shooter. So I think it's going to be difficult to guard the Bucks offensively. Defensively, there are some questions now that Jrue Holiday is gone, but I think they'll be able to figure that out. And man, I'm just excited for the season to get started. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are about the trade. What do you think Milwaukee is going to do this season? Are they going to make the finals? Are they going to win the title? Let me know your expectations for them, as well as any thoughts about other parts of the trade, such as Phoenix and Portland. And I'll see you guys in the next video.